Welcome to More Than a Few Words, a marketing conversation. This is your host, Lorraine Ball. And when you were growing up, did you have an imaginary friend? Somebody who kept you company and always made you feel like there was someone else there? You were never quite alone? I think that imaginary friend relationship was really healthy. But today, business owners are falling in love with an imaginary friend called an avatar. And that is not the same kind of relationship. Today, I'm going to talk to Rachel Allen, a fast thinking, deeply nerdy marketer with broad range experience in for profit and non for profit sectors. And I am so excited to talk to her about this idea of imaginary friends and avatars. It really got me curious. She's bringing more than 17 years with clients in over 21 countries to this conversation. Rachel, I am so excited you're here.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I cannot wait to talk about this. It is one of my very favorite things to talk about.
Well, then let's dive right in because the way you pitched the or proposed the idea to me, you said most customers, most businesses don't have a client avatar. They have an imaginary friend. What did you mean by that?
So, as you said, I've been doing marketing for about 17 years. And what I realized about 5 years in was that my clients didn't have any really good sense of who they were actually marketing to. And when I would ask them, hey, what's your client avatar? They would say, oh, it's me 5 years ago. Or they would show me one little, like, one page PDF they had filled out off of someone's download. And I was like, okay, we need to roll this back because that's not going to tell you anything about someone.
Absolutely not. And, it's so funny. It's one of these cases of physician heal thyself
Mm,
because I was really good at stepping back and talking to my clients and saying, yeah, no, that is not your target customer. Let's stop pretending that every small to mid-sized business is who you go after.
yeah.
Let's really dive in. But when I was talking about my business, maybe I let some of that language slip into the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so easy to do, right? Because you have often, like, I think, a felt sense of who they are. But then when you try to put words on it, it's like, as you said, they're a small to medium sized business owner. They're probably female. They're between the ages of 35 and 55. They are in some sort of partnership and they like pets. Great. That's everyone. How are you supposed to write copy that actually talks to that person?
Absolutely. So, how do you go from this vague, general description to a really ideal client that is actually who you should be talking to? And those are two different things.
Mm.
Who I think I should be talking to, who I'm really talking to, and maybe the people that'll pay me are somewhere in between.
Yeah. Oh, I love how you framed that. That is exactly the Venn diagram you want to go for. And so I have two stages that I tell people to go through. They love the first one and they hate the second one. The first one is that you want to switch away from demographics and into psychographics. So
Mhm.
demographics are the things we just named, 35 to 55, blah, 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 which could be anyone. But psychographics are, what do these people care about? What motivates them? What do they wake up at 3 in the morning worrying about? Because those
Mhm.
exact same demographic people could have wildly different psychographics based on what's happened in their lives?
Oh,
So that's where you start.
it's funny that you mentioned that. I used to teach marketing at local university, and one of my favorite exercises is I'd put up a photograph of two 60-year-old twin brothers.
Mm,
And I would talk about the fact that demographically, they're both lawyers, they're both married, and on paper, they look identical. But in
absolutely.
reality, one is married to his high school sweetheart, kids going to college, they're planning long term vacations. The second wife, the second one has a second wife, much younger, and she's pregnant.
Now
And
write the same copy for them.
yes, but they're both lawyers.
Right,
They
right.
both live in upscale neighborhoods. But what's keeping them up at night is so totally different.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And that's where the second step comes in that everyone hates, which is you have to actually talk to them. like real people,
Mhm.
conversation, human to human, face to face, not
Mhm.
just lurking on, um, nobody even goes to Facebook groups anymore, but lurking on their LinkedIn's or wherever they hang out. You have to sit down, and if you can have 10, 20-minute conversations with actual real people, that will give you so much more information, and that will tell you whether you're actually on the track of who you should be talking to, or just who maybe you want to talk to but they don't have any money,
Mhm.
or who that wonderful Venn diagram you outlined of the ideal person who actually has the money and who wants to hear from you.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of getting back out there. We got really comfortable, I think, during COVID,
Mhm.
doing everything behind a screen like this, but real conversations, and they don't have to be long,
Oh, no.
but real conversations happen in the real world.
Absolutely. And I mean, even with a situation like this, I think you and I know each other so much better, even just in our however long we've been talking, 5 minutes, than we
Mhm.
would have if we followed each other on LinkedIn for years. Because we can
Mhm.
see each other, we can see our expressions, we can hear our voice. And so if I were to write sales copy to you, I would be able to picture you in my mind as opposed to thinking of the idea of Lorraine-ness.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, because Lorraine Ness doesn't fit on paper.
Right.
And probably Rachel doesn't either. And that's
Mm,
that's the key is you don't need for most businesses, for most of the small clients you deal with, the ones I was dealing with when I ran my agency, they weren't looking to make a million sales in a year.
right.
They were looking for a much smaller group of sales. And so they could be okay with being selective in their copy.
Yes, exactly. And that's why it's so important to have, I think, those real conversations because people tend to look to the way that old ad agencies would do avatars, which
Mhm.
is mass surveys, and they're creating, a phone book sized client avatar, which is fine when you're selling Coca-Cola, but I don't
Mhm.
have that kind of marketing budget. I don't have that kind of time. I just want to talk to 10, 20, 30 people and then really get to know them.
I love that. So, all right, you got me bought in. I did the first thing. I threw out the demographics. I got inside the head. I'm an extrovert, so it's kind of fun for me to get out and talk to people. But
Mhm,
but let's pretend I'm one of my introvert clients. They have
mhm,
finally gotten to their 10 people. They have that sweet spot. Now, how do they go back and look at what they've been saying and change it to appeal to not their imaginary friend, but the real people that they talk to?
mm. I think the first step here is to make some sort of warm beverage because that requires a lot of humility and you need something comforting when you go back to do it. But what I recommend is that you try to set it aside. You try to set your judgment aside as much as you can because of course
Mhm.
I want to twist the data to be whatever was in my brain. That's
Mhm.
natural and human. But if you can set that aside and go back and look at what you've been saying as though it were somebody else's business, as though it's not quite so close to your heart, and then say, can I imagine actually saying this sentence out loud to that person I just got off the phone with?
Mhm.
And would they react or would they just be like, cool, thanks for the info? And if it's the latter, you need to change it.
Absolutely. And I think I love the idea of a warm beverage
Right.
because it's comforting. I also like the idea of a second person
Yes.
reading it. And I did something a little bit out there this spring. I came to the conclusion that my avatar was wrong.
Mm.
My content, my podcast was right. It
Yeah.
was resonating, but I kept selling it to small business owners and they didn't want it
Yeah.
when it should have been selling it to marketers. So I actually went to ChatGPT and said, who is my show for? Great. Now, this is who I really want to talk to. Give me ideas on what I can change.
Mm.
I still had to go back and read it and write it, but it helped point me in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. And having that kind of external input or, a coach or a friend, somebody who knows you really well,
Mhm.
any kind of something that's not just the echo chamber of your own mind is so helpful for those things. Because as I'm sure you found, the things that I've done that have been the most popular, I would have never in a million years thought that's what people wanted.
Mhm. But Pete, you know what? Statistics, I think they bland out the edges
Hmm.
of people. And when you go for the quirky edge, I think you get content that really resonates.
Yes, the quirky edge. I think that's our mic drop moment right there. Go for the quirky edge. Beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, I got to tell you, I have enjoyed this so much. I could chat with you forever, but I'm going to leave my audience wanting more. I am going to tell them, guys, if you're interested in seeing how this really works, head over to Bolt from the Blue Copywriting, BOLTFROMTHEBLUECOPYWriting.com. And if that was too long for you, just hop over to the show notes. There'll be a link there too. Find out more about what Rachel does and how she helps people meet their imaginary friend. Rachel, thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
This was a lot of fun. And if you're looking for other conversations like this one, be sure to hop over to morethanafewwords.com. You'll find hundreds of conversations just like this, along with some of my favorite videos, webinars, workbooks, and so much more. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.